Alright guys, so I might have noticed that I was covering mid lane videos or the middle lane role in general for the last like what, fucking 10 videos or something. Well, it's time to change that up. Today we're looking at the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Kerias on the RELL, and his item build will feature a item that I generally wanted to talk about on this channel for a while now, ever since it got a little bit more popular on Aatrox. And there was some discussion around it, whether or not it's good or not, and that is, of course, Evan Shroud. Now, what that item does, of course, is it is very good on Aatrox, and, well, RELL does build it too. RELL, the one who just got reworked, I mean, just at this point, it's probably a week ago, plus, but still a relatively fresh update. I have to say, I haven't really seen her much. She more or less feels same-ish, except that, of course, in the future patch, she is going to get buffed even more for the jungle, and I feel like the next buffs could put her over the edge and to make her actually an acceptable tank kind of jungler, a little bit like Maokai or whatever. But, you know, just for a little bit more single target or wombo combo style engage, right? Where Maokai, of course, has the brambles that, you know, barrel down the entire river and root everything. She is just more Rakan-esque, right? Like a very quick, aggressive engager. And very flash reliant, and generally could benefit quite a bit from the hiddenness of jungle and being able to just jump into things. Problem is, in the jungle, you have to be able to skirmish, you have to be able to have a strong 2v2, and then you also need to clear camps, right? So at that point, you have created a champion that is actually kind of scary. And if you look at most of the champions that are supports and can also be played in the jungle, it's usually junglers being able to be played support, usually not the other way around, as normally supports get a little bit unbalanced whenever they're able to do well in the jungle. However, RELL, a little bit special as she has very like specific jungle specific changes, right? She's getting buffed very specifically for that. By the way, beautiful punish here on the level 2 by Kerias, as he's kind of been just messing around with the Nilah. Nilah, not an AD carry that is able to take a lot of space, and Kerias doing a very good job at punishing exactly that. Walking up very, very far there, you know, at a certain point, even without any point, as now, of course, level 3 here coming up for the Nilah already kind of quickly, where, you know, exactly, the RELL Samira lane is going to take much more time here, as of course Nilah does have that XP share passive. So there is a potential all-in window here, but then you look at the matchup and you realize, not really. Yuumi not that good at helping out with these early skirmishes, and Samira RELL probably one of the scarier combos that you can run with Samira right now. Granted, Samira not necessarily the champion, as it would seem that most people that usually have played Samira the last couple of patches now kind of switch to Lucian. That's kind of the aggressive one, right? Did I say Nilah? Samira. Nilah also, it's kind of a similar boat, but the thing with Nilah is that she has that really deep mechanic around her auto attack share and her, you know, auto attack range that she gets from Q, and generally being very low range, and just has a lot of things going for her that just make her look absolutely freaking complicated. So the problem with there is that, at least that I've run into, is like no one plays her unless they're one trick, and then they like just tear open the game. So seems like a champion that is has a very high skill return, right? As Samira, definitely also one of them, but I would say has better return from matchup than anything else. What I mean by that is that, of course, if a Samira has a really good engaged support, which RELL definitely could be considered, then Samira is just completely nasty. And, well, yeah, generally very, very strong in the team fights. So yeah, we have to put out the point here that the Viego is already 3-0. That's pretty scary. Ari not really having the best of time here in the mid lane, however, still manages to keep up and farm. Should be up and farm very slightly if I read the wave down in the bottom lane and in the bottom of the screen here. It's a little bit hard to see. But talking about the bot lane that we were looking at right now, of course, Samira has a good lead. We found a strong trade so far. And the scary thing that is coming up, though, would probably be the fact that Nilah can hit level 6 before the Samira and the RELL. And there might be an all-in timing there, especially if Samira ends up overstaying here even longer. Because, of course, if you're not able to invest the gold that you have as an advantage, then you don't really have an advantage, do you? As here we will be freezing up the lane and hopefully just killing the cannon. Yeah, exactly. So RELL is going to share the money here and Samira takes her recall. Didn't take a recall yet. Cancel the recall again. I'm sure Kerias is absolutely fuming as here now Nilah steps up forward, steps into the bush, will be taken down here. Ignite takes her down as Samira elects to play that safe, but this is what the freeze can do. People do absolutely lose their mind, especially if the jungler is not around. And thus, a kill is picked up here by Keria. And one picked up by the Samira. Now we get a plate. We get to sink a lot of EXP into the tower. Very good situation to be in. But Nilah definitely not a lost cause yet. I think Nilah can afford to go down a kill and still have some chances. But if she falls down a little bit further, falls behind a little bit more here behind the Samira, then it can still be very scary. I'm looking forward to the Samira build here. I'm not looking forward to this. Of course, for anyone who plays Samira, please explain to me why the hell you guys love the Duskblade so much. It seems so bad. I have no words. Feels to me like it's this classic, it's this classic item where it's like, yeah, if you're ahead, then sure, it feels good, but it's not the reason you're winning. And then you could have some items that would help you win situations that you wouldn't otherwise, but you just elect to not. I don't know. There's a K'Sante in the enemy team. He's not winning, so he's not really winning lane, so he's probably not that scary. But still, I just completely hate the idea of it. Okay, Keria gonna flash out here. Burger flip following as here now the ultimate is stacked and Keria will be taken down, but we managed to get the trade, and so with the trade back here for the Samira, double kill goes down for her as she will take down the Nilah as well as her support. Very good situation here as, ooh, a sneaky little Nico immediately is going to pick up that kill. And even more from the Samira here. Ooh, Samira might not have enough money here to get a Duskblade. Okay, she still does. Okay, very good, very good. Duskblade is a very, very big power spike here. Although, realistically, and this is the thing, right? Are you going to kill the Nilah? Yeah, are you going to kill the support before you kill Nilah? No. Does Duskblade have any value versus Yuumi? Absolutely not, right? So now the question is, who does it work against? Maybe in a team fight, you get, you get a takedown on, I don't know, the AD carry or maybe the mid laner. And then you can't be stopped during your ultimate, right? That's kind of the idea that seems to be the case. But very, very reliant on you being able to snowball and like enemies also playing stuff very poorly. Because I think if people can manage to play around your weakness, then it's even more of a weakness with Duskblade, because you are even more reliant on getting kills picked up. Okay. Keria dropping the ignite here to stop the recall, as he did not hit the Q. Okay, W as well as the Gravity Storm here. One kill picked up already by the Viego, as here the Yuumi will go down as well. Samira manages to pick up the kill on to the Nico as well, and I mean, it's just a nightmare scenario here. So far, I mean, you know, very RELL stuff, I guess. You know, we've seen RELL. This is what RELL does. No one's really surprised about RELL doing RELL things. Unless you play against her and she just like engages on you and you just can't move half the time. So I understand why people don't like RELL, but you know, as someone who's not involved in this at all, RELL kind of feels like she always did, right? And so I heard that the idea was to make RELL feel a little bit more mobile, make RELL feel a little bit more presentable, a little bit more like she has some agency, and I think they definitely made her feel a little bit more mobile and a little bit more interactive, while pretty much keeping the kit that has already shown itself to be, you know, very good. The crash down with the ultimate combo. She's a reasonably simple one. It does have some very special stuff though. I'm absolutely in love with the design. I adore this kind of like metal mancer with the horse and the armor and this kind of knight stuff. I love it. I'm a sucker for like plate armor. Plate armor is great shit. So yeah, big fan. And of course, you know, no one's gonna complain about having a badass support that can clap some enemy cheeks, as she will for sure do that. That big ass lance. Yeah, so we see definitely, and I think this is a very good one. We definitely see a little bit more thematicness, one could say, where you know, she feels faster on her horse. I just kind of wish it was more a how do I put this? I wish she felt more tanky with her W on. And this kind of shield and like the little bit of resist just doesn't feel the same way. But of course you would have to shift the balance a little bit, as right now she has a pretty strong engage tool. Of course not as strong as like something like Rakan that can engage from miles away, but of course Rakan is also very squishy, right? So pretty much relies on his mobility for defense. Israel seems to be more in line with the knight theme here. Talking about things being in line, Samira absolutely just staying in line and going for even more lethality items here. Would be interesting to see what she's going for. Most likely just going to go for the collector and then transition into some crit items. Crit, absurdly effective when low at value, but very unreliable, of course. But then much more reliable once you get to the 80s and 100s of crit chance. So a little bit weird where like in the beginning crit chance is very good, but then in the end crit chance is terrible in the middle, and then in the end it's like again super broken again because it's just you just perma deal bonus 250, right? So Samira can definitely benefit from getting a little bit of crit here. Is probably going to get some lifesteal, as Samira generally does need some lifesteal to be able to do her job, especially versus something like the Kesant, who, I mean, doesn't seem to be too much of a threat. I just don't see Samira being a very strong AD carry when it comes to melting tanks. And I think that if you're going up against like one or two tanky targets that are kind of ahead or even, I think Infinity Edge is a much better option. I still generally think that Shield Bow into Infinity Edge is still just the build. But people seem to be enjoying the Dustblade a lot, seem to be playing it a lot. I absolutely think it's terrible, but I'm not a Samira player, so why would I care, right? Neela will be going for the Bloodthirster here. Bloodthirster, also one of these items that is just very, very cost efficient on any melee type champion like this. Because, you know, Neela does have pretty good base damage. But, of course, a lot of options available to Neela. Unfortunately, the Titanic Hydra not nearly as good anymore as it used to be. Used to be the go-to item. And that's when I picked up Neela. you know, when she came out. Kind of checked her out a little bit. Did play her a couple of matches, and must say I did enjoy it, but the thing is that she's just very niche, right? She plays very differently from any other AD carry. Samira kind of being very close in the kit, but then being very different from the playstyle. It generally feels quite odd. Okay, so we're looking for the absolutely most greedy dive here you could imagine. Without the AD carry there, we're just kind of diving a tank and we're diving a Nico, which both of those, not necessarily the targets you want to dive, especially if a Yuumi is sitting on top. But, you know, right now we don't really have anything to do, and apparently the Korean server is turning more and more into the super server here. This is so funny. I've noticed this like, what, half a year ago or whatever, where I was just like, dude, what, are we just turning into the super server now? And it's just, ever since then, I always like end up noticing it, that people have gotten so perma-aggressive on the Korean server. It's crazy. Maybe it's my perspective. Maybe I'm starting to get like more used to higher elos, and so thus I feel a little bit more like it's weird to play higher elos this fast and aggressive. But for sure, one thing that it helps with is hands. Hands that, you know, we don't necessarily have on the... okay. Don't necessarily have on the Western servers here is Ari. Definitely not going to give over 700 gold here to the Kazakhs, right? Yeah, I think that bounties... I've been thinking about this a lot, and tell me what you think about this, but I've been thinking that bounties could probably be pretty good if they're like kept at like 500 or 400. But I think giving your opponent 1,050 gold is kind of just a little bit too much for dying once if you've done well in the game. I just think it's not. I don't know, dude, man. I don't know. I hate it. I have to say. I absolutely do hate it. But yeah, it is what it is. And, yeah. We are at this point where Riot has announced the next season, like, and I think that most of the changes for this season have gone through, which means I'm not sure that things like bounties are gonna get changed until pre-season, which I'm not a big fan of, because I think that for solo queue bounties are just not very healthy. In pro play it doesn't really matter. People don't really play around bounties because people don't drop as many deaths. And bounties, of course, not activated by farm nor by anything else that, you know, matters in pro play. I mean, they're a little bit activated by farm, right? Apparently not activated at all by plates, which seems to be the thing that you can play around much more. Yeah, generally seems to be a little bit of a question mark, but one thing is for sure, in the current meta, getting kills kinda 2019, as nowadays you get plates and minions do like a badass. Definitely doesn't make the game more enjoyable to play. And I find myself very often, for example, and this is a secret trick, whenever I'm starting to accumulate a bounty, I find myself just building defensive items and just prioritizing defensive stats over anything else. And I didn't even really notice that, right? And then I had one game where I was like, okay, no, I'm just going to build a death cap, whatever, right? Just because, I don't know, I think it was like a more or less for fun game for me, where I played Silas, which is a champion that I play a lot, right? And played it in a normal game or on the low elo count or whatever. I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm going for Rabadons here next, and I've just felt so powerful. And it's so funny because I realized then and there that I just always build defensive stats whenever I'm ahead. So I never feel as brokenly ahead until I'm like fucking 17-0 or whatever. As I could feel if I just would invest into more into more damage. But it's just a good play to you know, get more defensive stats, as then of course you just you have much better chances at taking 1v2s. That's number one. But on the other hand, as well, it's just very much less likely that some awkward thing happens where you kind of randomly die by chance. I know. You don't necessarily die by chance, but I mean, there's things that can go wrong that are not necessarily your bad and you still die. So yeah, Ari at this point has given over a good amount of money just in shutdown gold. Probably 1,000 gold at this point in shutdowns, which is rather unfortunate. Good amount of money going back to the Kazakh's pockets, although Kazakh's not really having the time of his life. Samira will go down here as well. Yeah, not really that many defensive stats, not really that many options. I'm not gonna flame the build, but I hate the build. Alright, so Evan Shroud here, acquired on Rel. Plus it'll make people take more damage as you deal CC to them. Something that is supremely powerful on the Aatrox right now. For obvious reasons. Yeah, I would say Neela is behind in items for sure, but I would say Neela is not that behind. Let me be honest with you. I think that Neela is definitely still a human being. However, the problem is, Neela, I think more than any other AD carry, feels very weak in mid-game. I feel like, you know, Caitlyn's power trough during mid-game? You ever played Caitlyn and you're looking super scary in the laning phase and looks really good, and then mid-game you just meet the enemy mid laner that's just 0 and 0 and they just completely obliterate you. Yeah, Neela kind of feels like that too, but worse. Okay, so far very good trade here, as we will pick up another kill for ourselves as well. So this now makes it a quadra kill. Not for Huni this time. It is going to be for the red team here, who now have secured themselves a lead of 7k gold. Quite a bit of money here, although nothing you couldn't flip in a solo queue game, of course, in a hard day, in a hard day's work. Definitely not if you're going for Assassin Samira. We are getting a Edge of Night. Of course, that is a supremely powerful item, very scary. Especially on someone like Samira who likes to dive in. This can now kind of bridge the time between having the Duskblade and not. And still building up your stacks. The time between that is mainly the reason why I think Shield Bow is still kind of superior. Kind of just feels much better. But just me things, right? And eventually I'm just gonna have to play some Samira with Duskblade and just fucking prove everyone wrong on like how fucking terrible this item is. Apparently just everyone plays it. I hate it. But yeah. So by the way, you saw the Nico trick there. This is something that a lot of people haven't really figured out, but that's some Nico tech that is super big. Is you can almost permanently ward your, if you don't have your, don't have a ward trinket right now, you can just permanently ward about bush by just Wing in and then recalling, and just the clone just recalls and just channels the recall to the end. So very good for getting some vision. That's exactly what happened there with the Kazakhs randomly recalling. That was a Nico clone. It's a very scary fight. I barely have any idea of what's going on. Beautiful re-engage here though by Keria, as he will find again an opening here for his team to insert themselves and find the victory here. Even though Samira, despite her supremely powerful item build going down, of course, she still did manage to win the team fight, even without the Samira. Very beautiful job, very beautiful engage, and this is exactly what Rel does, right? She's not fancy, she's not crazy, but if you get a 4-man, 5-man engage, you can be incredibly scary, and definitely a very playmaking heavy champion, the Rel. So generally, I'm a very big fan of Rel as a concept, and I think they executed the changes well enough that, you know, she's still the same champion, but she feels very nice to play. I've played her once now, and I must say she's very nice. Next patch, I'm gonna try her out in the jungle, because I think that, what is it now? 250% of damage dealt against jungle camps? Probably pretty good. She got that treatment on, what, 2 abilities now? So that should be pretty impressive. We're gonna see how that works out. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.